Hey, welcome into the studio. I want to show you today what I consider to be one of the, well, if not the, but one of the most important brush strokes you can master for watercolor painting and honestly, in my opinion, acrylic painting and also painting and brush lettering. Okay, so this stroke, in my opinion, is the absolute number one stroke that you need to learn. So I'm just getting my paper. I have my Canson watercolor, 140 pound. I just have my mix of watercolors here on my palette. And I want to show you this stroke. And then we are going to paint some pretty little wild violets. My neighbor had not cut their grass for quite a little while. Um, and I'm not going to complain because every time I looked out, her whole entire lawn was covered in the sea of purple wild violets. So that was my inspiration for this today. And it got me thinking about this stroke. So I've got my two water cups here, one for my dirty, one for my clean, and I've got my palette. So let me just go ahead and get some water in here. We know we're going to be using some violet because we are going to paint violets. And I'm going to be painting, we're not going to be using too many crazy colors. So I've just got my Fine Touch 12 round. I've also got my Princeton Neptune 8. So depending on what size, I'm going to use the larger one so that you can see. With my brush, I want to make sure I've got my water nice and thin. I'm going to just use my green. I'm going to just thin out some paint, make sure I've got enough water in there. And then I'm going to show you this extremely important stroke. To me, yeah, there's lots of fun strokes, but this one is like the most important one, right? So it's going to be the stroke that is going to teach you to paint leaves, flowers, and brush letter. And you're going to use it in so many other things, right? So you're going to wet your brush. I'm going to make sure I don't have too much water on it. So I'm going to tap it off on my palette a bit. I could tap it off on a paper towel, but I want to make sure I have enough. We're just practicing here right now. So in the corner, I'm going to take that brush. I'm going to put my hand down, and on the tip of the brush, I'm going to pull that brush stroke back to me. So this is the first part of that stroke. It's a pull, right? So we're going to pull. We're going to pull. The second part, let me just see if I can darken that a bit. I got a lot of water there. So we're going to pull a piece of hair. And the second part of that would be a push, right? So when we push on the brush, we push down on the belly of that brush. We're using this whole part of the brush and not just the tip. So the tip of the brush gives us this nice thin when we pull. When we press down, flatten that brush down and pull on the paper, we're using the belly of the brush, right? So when we combine them, let me just get some more color here. When we combine these strokes, we're going to get a pull, a push, and a lift. We're going to lift back to that point. We can then push again, pull, lift, and pull. So when we pull, we're getting that thin stroke, and we can just practice this, right? So we can just practice, get used to doing that thin stroke, that pull, 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 right? And then we're going to push. So when we push down, we're getting thicker, broader strokes. When we combine them, when we do the pull, push, and lift, we get a leaf shape, right? Too much water. Pull, push, lift. Pull, push, and lift back to the point. So we're starting at the point. On the point, we're pulling, the brush, pushing it down onto the paper, pulling it back, and then we're lifting again. So we're pulling, pushing, lifting, and then pulling a little bit. So it's that push, pull, lift. You could do it this way, but it's that pull, push, lift, push, pull, lift, however you want to say it to remember it. This will be one of the most important strokes, if not the most important stroke to learn for painting. And now I'm going to show you different ways to use that stroke. Okay, so I'm just going to clean my brush, tap it off a bit. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pick up some of my vibrant purple. I love this color. Right, so we know we can do leaves like that, but we can also do petals of a flower by maybe eliminating so much of the pull at first. So when we put the brush down on the paper, we can just start out with a push. We're pushing down, we're pulling back, and we're lifting. I have a hair or something in this brush. So we're going to push, pull back, and lift, right? So you can see how, let me do it down here. Push, pull, and lift. You can see how this one is pointed both sides. This one is only pointed on the one. So this takes on more of a leaf shape. This takes on more of a petal shape. So when we repeat those and we practice those, so we push, pull back slightly, and lift to the point, we can create these little comma strokes or what look like flower petals, right? We can also do leaves that are shaped that way. We can then, right, so we can do a flower, one, and we can just put a couple of these side by side, 2, 3, and 4. So we're pushing, pulling, and lifting towards the center. So we've got a simple 4-petal flower there. I'm going to clean my brush. This is all with that one stroke, just a variation. And then we can do leaves the same way, right? So we can then combine these leaves, right? So if I want a thicker leaf than this, I can do, let me make sure we're still in the paper. So I can drop it, push it, pull, and lift. If I want that leaf to be a bit wider, I can put my brush down there again, pull off to the side, over, back, and lift, right? So it makes it a little bit thicker. I can also do the pull, push, lift. I can also do it thicker that way as well, right? So you see just by this one is more rounded and this one is more pointed. So I can come over here, press, pull, and lift. And I can press, pull, and lift and make a really nice thick. So I can press it. I can even wiggle it a bit, pull it back and lift, get some more paint. I can thicken that up even more. And if I leave some white space in between the two of those lines, even better, right? That's what makes watercolor so interesting. So you can see that that's kind of like an abstract little violet. So I'm going to set my palette off to the side just for a second, and I'm going to grab my pencil. You don't have to be, you don't even need to know really how to draw, because just like I did here, it's just using those simple strokes. So I put 1 together here, 2, 3, and a 4th one, join them all in the middle. So this part of the flower, that part of the petal can form this 4-petaled flower. So that's the 4-petal. Now, if we look here at our little wild violets, this petal right here looks just like this one. This one is the same. It's just we twist, the brush gets twisted a little bit. And then these two, the petals are just curled a little bit. Same here. 4 petals, they're just all curled. They haven't opened yet, right? So we can do this flower one of 2 ways. This way, which would be doing it like this, and I'll show you. Let me just show you real quick here. If you want to do this and try to twist that stroke, this here. So this one here would be push, wiggle, maybe just wiggle a little bit, pull back to the center, and I can do a second one to make it a little bit thicker. Get some more color here. Okay. Now this one, I'm going to push it. I'm going to pull back and lift to the point, but I'm just going to twist that brush, almost like a comma, right? So I'm pushing and pulling it to the center, and then I can just start out a little bit wider, pull that out, pull it around, and come in. So you'll see it kind of gives that look of a flower petal. And I can finish this one off by just keeping it smaller. Push, pull back and lift. And then this one, I can add in that 4th petal, push, pull back and lift. Push, pull, lift. I can drop in some more color if I want that to be a little bit thicker. And we can fill up the whole page that way. Why don't we do that? Let's do that together. So I'm going to move and turn my paper around. I'm just going to turn my paper around, and we're going to use this side of the paper, and I will put my palette over here. We're really only going to use the 2 colors, the purple and the green. You know what? Let's get a fresh sheet of paper. We can do this. Let's do this. Right? I think this would be so beautiful to just do in a sketchbook. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to grab my sketchbook. If you guys don't have a watercolor sketchbook, you may want to think about getting one. I love a sketchbook for these types of activities where you just come in here. You don't have to worry. No, you cannot come up here, ma'am. Sorry, my little Yorkie's trying to climb across my art table. We're not having that today, girlfriend. I love you, but no, ma'am. Okay, so I'm going to just start here. And let's let go of any need to be perfect, right? This is that stroke that I just want you to get used to using that stroke. So I'm just going to get some more really nice bright color in here. I'm going to tap my brush to get some of that water off. And I'm just going to pick somewhere on my watercolor paper. I'm going to drop my brush, press, pull back, and lift. So I want a center point. I'm going to pull 4 petals back to that center point, and they don't have to be perfectly 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we're going to vary them, and we're going to make some of these thicker. So make that petal double thick, right? I'll show you that here again. 1, so we're going to press. I'm wiggling just a bit, pull back and lift to the center. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. So I'm going to start at the top, press right next to it, pull back and lift to the center. And it's okay that there's some white space there. It's actually pretty cool. Now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to move my brush, my hand this way. I'm going to just drop that brush, press, pull back with my pressing down on the brush and pulling back. As I'm pulling back, I'm going to lift to a point. I can double that petal and make it bigger. And then I'm going to finish with another one here off to the side. So I'm going to drop that brush, press it down, flatten it, pull it back, and lift to the point to the center. I can leave it. They don't all have to be doubled, right? So where's my reference photo? Here it is. So I'm going to grab this. Let's try another one like this. So let's do it right about here. press. I'm going to wiggle it, pull it back and lift. I can make them big. Remember, we can double the size of our petals. Push, pull back and lift, push, pull back and lift. And if I don't want all of that white space, push, wiggle, pull back and lift. Push, wiggle, pull back and lift. And this one, I'm coming in on the side of the brush. Press, pull back, and then lift up to the point of that brush, right? It gives me the same effect, but just slightly different. So you can do the whole page like that. I want to try one just like we did with this one. Now remember, we did this one here. Let's do it right here. We did press, pull, and lift. I'm going to need a little bit more water and paint on my brush. Press, pull back, and lift. Now this one, remember, it sort of starts here and swings in on like a little slant. So I'm going to press, wiggle, pull back, turn that brush a little bit to the center and lift. And I can bring this out, pull it down, pull it, lift up, and pull back to the center. So it gives us that look as though the petals are kind of twirling. Then I can do this one. Let's do this tall one here. Press, pull down, like push, pull to the center, and then pull back to that point and lift, right? Drop some more color in. This one here kind of is a little bit straight, so I can just remember how we did it with the leaves. I can pull a little bit, then push, and then pull back, right? So I can give that the look of a point on the end of that leaf by giving it a little pull before we do the push to the pull. So I'm going to take a minute and just put a couple more of these across my paper. I'm going to try, let's see if we can do one like this, right? So that is just a press, a pull, and we're going to meet down here. Okay, a press, a pull, and a meet down here. Now this one, press, wiggle, pull, and lift. Press, pull, lift. So all 4 of those are meeting there. So you can take a little bit of time and do a whole page of these. You can take your time. Once you feel comfortable with them, you can just fill up the whole page with these. Pull, push, lift, and pull, right? So we can vary the look of our violets just by doing that. It just gives it more of like a side view. Push, pull, lift, push, wiggle, pull, and lift. Let me get some water on my brush. Push, pull, and lift to the center. Push, wiggle, pull. I'm going to double that one. So just by doubling them, it's the same stroke. Okay, so I can just do a couple more over here. Okay, press, pull, and lift. Not enough paint and water on my brush. Press, pull, and lift to the center. I'm going to give this a good clean, and we're going to switch over to a little bit of green. I'm going to use my sap green because that's what I have here. Just clean my brush, get this nice and activated. Okay. I may throw a little bit of blue in there just to brighten that green up a little bit. Okay, and then just like we did on our sample piece, right? I'm going to pull, push, wiggle, pull out, and I'm going to lift kind of to a point there. I'm going to round out my point. My Chihuahua is trying to climb, or my Yorkie is trying to climb on the paint table. So you don't see me with my right arm trying to hold a dog back. So this one, we can just put leaves anywhere. We can pull, push, lift and pull, push, lift and pull. And putting two of those together will make your leaf a, a bit, sorry for laughing, guys. I just have to laugh because, dogs are like children. They can be so good until you start to do something, and then, it's like, oh, mom's on the phone. So then just fill up your page. Like with this one, it's way too much. So we're just going to put a leaf there. Press, pull, lift. Press, pull, lift. And they don't all have to be going in that same direction. Put some going off to the side. Press, twist, pull out. Right? So we can double those up nice and thick. Pull, push, lift. Pull out, press, pull, and lift back. So it's that press, pull, lift. Well, that was not meant to be there, but you know what? It's okay. This is my sketchbook. It's not going to the museum. Press, pull back, and lift to a point. And just like we did with the flowers, if we want a more rounded leaf, we don't have to do that pull back at the end. And if you don't like all of that white space, you can always come back in, deepen your colors a little bit while the paper is still wet. Gives it some interest. Okay. So I hope you guys like that. I really do honestly feel like this is one of the most important brush strokes that you could learn for painting with watercolor, with acrylic, and honestly, I use this a lot with my brush lettering. Press, pull, and lift, right? So we can just put some extra leaves around the paper, fill in the space of that paper. This is a great way to get used to doing leaves. Just do leaves of all shapes and sizes, some round, some pointed. Right, so I can double that, and also that pull gives you a nice little stem for your leaf. You can double them and make two leaves on the same stem, right? And then just to finish it off, if you have a little bit of yellow nearby, I have orange. I think I'll just do like a little tap of some brown here in the center, some brownish orange. You can do that in your flowers. And let me know if you like this. Let me know in your painting journey if this stroke helps you, because I will stand on the hill and say that this is one of the most important strokes that you could learn for any type of painting, right? Practice, come back, let me know what you think. If there's a stroke that you're struggling with, I would love for you to let me know in the comments below. And I will see you next Wednesday for Watercolor Wednesday. Thanks for joining me today.